Well, hello guys. Welcome to another video and welcome to my channel. We are here in Singapore with the old Singapore Airlines 777-200ER, and it's been in sort of a talk in sort of the social media pages that I've been following over the last couple of months about the old original Singapore Airlines. I think they called it the what do they call it? They call it the Capital Link or the Capital Service. They trialed a service from Singapore down to Canberra and then a tag along to Wellington, which was Wellington's first ever. I mean, it's still technically a trans-Tasman flight, but it was the first time Wellington had been connected up through one airline, effectively a long haul flight, and it was one of they had Wellington used to have wide-bodied aircraft that used to operate. Qantas used to operate their 767s along via New Zealand, and they also operated the 747 SP, which is one of those forgotten aircraft that Qantas operated. They're very famous for a stage operating only a pure 747 fleet, but the SP was a very forgotten aircraft in Qantas's fleet. But yeah, we're going to do initially, not initially. Originally, the flight was done at 11 o'clock at night, but you know, some of those nighttime flights are pretty boring scenery-wise. We'll get it as close as we can to have a nice sort of darkish takeoff, but we'll hopefully have sort of daylight as we fly over the outback, as long as there's no issues with connection on the internet and dropping out and losing that texturing. But hopefully it all works out fine. But yeah, we're going to be doing the so originally this flight left at 11 o'clock at night here in Singapore and got to Canberra at 8 o'clock, and then a quick little turnaround, then they carried on down to Wellington. Yeah, it's like, I believe it's like coming up to like the anniversary or whatever. Not quite the anniversary. They started it in September, but I believe around this time, it was around this time when the Canberra wasn't really pulling much passengers, so they changed it to Melbourne, and apparently it did really well, to the point that, I mean, Singapore Airlines were always going to retire their 777-200s anyway, but they upgraded it to the A350, and I believe it did not too bad. I do know that Wellington, there was some sort of subsidisation from the Wellington government, the local government, the council, but I believe it did really well, and then COVID hit, and I can't remember if Singapore pulled it just before COVID, but I'm pretty sure they pulled it as a result of COVID, and they never came back to Wellington. But who knows, in the future Wellington might have a not only return to the wide-bodied network, but hopefully one day Wellington does get a you know, a long haul service. But yeah, we'll get into it and we'll get this fired up and get our flight plan loaded. I'm just going to reload this flight plan because I just updated the weights to make it a bit more cargo heavy, because I left it on auto for the cargo, and it was quite a light takeoff. So yeah, and we'll try FS HUD, and this is in Microsoft 2024, so we'll see how it all goes. Right, as you know of my videos, they're very stripped down. Like, I don't pretend to be a real world pilot. I just want to, with my limited time, I just want to get flying, and we'll open up the windows, say, get some I was going to say get some fresh air, but it's 26 degrees, and I can imagine it's a very humid day in Singapore, and also smelling the avgas too. It's not exactly fresh here, but yeah, we'll get ourselves sorted. We'll come into here, and this is basically what I've preset. I think I did it in one of my previous videos, but I basically set my set the aircraft to like a turnaround state kind of thing, and just left this as if the pilots forgot to reset that, so I'll reset that. It's almost like the pilots have swapped over and the next one's come through, and there's a few little things that they forgot to do when they finished up from their previous flights, so it just makes it a little bit more, I guess, sort of, I was going to say realistic, or I was going to say lived in kind of thing. It makes it feel like this aircraft's been lived in. So we will come into here, request our data from the sim brief, and just magically like that our flight plan has appeared. And we come into the FMC, go into index, position index, and we will enter in WSSS. I'm not too sure, I can't remember the turnaround. Do I have to re-enter my, I'm assuming I don't have to do that because my ILSs have been left on since the previous flight. Right, we'll import our flight plan. I don't think we need to do that, so that's alright. We'll go into the next page. We'll go to route request and upload our sim brief route. Select payload, select fuel, and select route, and that is our flight plan now going to load up. And it'll be interesting to see what runway FS HUD gives us, but what we will do is we're going to go to reset all, so it's all clear, and then we're going to start afresh. Oxygen, get that all sorted, and I think I push load again. Like so, and then I'm going to go into here and start my flight. Push the magic B to letter to get set our altimeters. And our flight plan, I'll just go through here, that looks quite sensible, so we can now activate that and execute. And we're going to our perf init page, and we'll just click on this empty box and bring up our 0 fuel weight and click accept. So that's all accepted. Because we accept that, what we will do, I always do this as a habit so I don't forget, I'll load my cruising altitude winds, and I'll just request flight clearance, execute, and then I'll go to VNav and upload the forecast. And then that will give me, that's worked out perfectly. And we can now enter in our departure runway. So runway 2 center, is it? 20 center with the Kia D1B. So that's that. That's our, and we'll sort of follow their altitude restrictions, shall we? Alright, we've done that. We'll now go into our takeoff data, we'll go to our thrust limit page, and we will push this little home button, come into our performance tool. We're going to take off from runway 20 center, import our data from our aircraft, import the weather, and calculate. And we'll just leave our packs on for our takeoff, leave it to auto. So we select takeoff to first, and then we put our, so we do that, and then we go 47, and that's our, I guess you call it your flex takeoff or set takeoff. We'll just add in our wind, so we don't need to worry about it really. I'll just do free. Just make up a random number because it's basically no wind. But we're going to use flaps 5 takeoff. And we'll just select this little box here to bring up our trim. And we'll just copy and paste, and we will now set our V2 speed into here like so. So that was at 58, 158. Like so. We'll get our request for pushback so it's all ready. And we'll select our departure onto sim brief so it's all nice and tidy. So so it's changed to runway 2. Oh, what am I doing? I have to do this again, so just click on that and change it to runway 20 center. And our departure is that Kira 1B. That's the one that we want to take, so we'll select that and add that to our route. So that's basically our flight plan all set. So we'll just go into get my runway heading, set that, runway 20, to 0 center, and that's 203. Right, that's all set. We'll turn on our flight directors too. We'll turn on our nav, I think, because we're just going to go up to 6,000 feet to begin with. Or do we just use VNav? I can't really remember. But anyway, we are all basically set. We'll just do our landing dispatch, which is going to be what is our 35 is our planned runway, so we'll just select runway 35, import the weather, calculate, and that basically means we are able to land on the runway. Right, we'll get rid of all of our ground services, so release all of our ground services, magically disappear, release our jetway, we don't need that. That's all lovely. We'll now arm all of the doors, and while that's coming up, we will come up here and turn off the ground power. Don't need that anymore. Now we can release the ground power itself, remove the chocks. Now we'll come through here and we'll turn on all of these switches so seatbelt signs can come on. Turn on all of these hydraulics and electrics to auto. Do we have fuel in our no fuel in our center tank, so don't need to worry about that. The emergency lights, and we can now turn on our beacon light, and we'll just quickly go through and just Tick off all of these. We won't do the trim just yet until we're pushed back. Which way we are going? Cool, so we're going to push back to our right. Bring up the tug, release the parking brakes, and we can start our pushback. Singapore Airlines 747 was cargo, which is having a bit of a hard time there at the moment. That used to be like, that was their flagship. Alright, we'll turn on the engines, We'll start with engine 1. And we'll get our transponder set to... And that will be us for our pushback. We'll get rid of the tug, release the parking brake, and how's our engine startup looking? It's looking like that one's turned on, so we'll go back up to here and we'll turn on our next engine. And while that's turning on, we'll remember to close the window. To push this little thing here and wind it on in. And then secure the lock and bring the little notepad up, and we'll now go to our trim page, which is in our flight control page, and we'll set our trim to 6. You can even use this page, or you can use this little selector thing here. While we're here, we'll just make sure our controls are all working like real world pilots would do. That looks all pretty good. And right. Just had an issue with my little rudder there. Don't just excuse that beeping. For some reason when I pull out my cords and stuff, it sets flaps and all the rest of it. Anyway, we'll get going now. We'll go back to the checklist page. We've set our trim. We'll select our flaps for flaps 5. Rejected takeoff can now come on. Everything's all clear. That's normal. Now we'll just release our parking brakes. Push that button again, and we can just start our taxi. And just like that, for you guys who are wanting to get into this sort of flying, you can make it as difficult or simple as possible. You can make it as difficult or simple, whatever you want to choose. But yeah, it's surprising how easy you can make it for yourself. If you want to be a real world pilot and go real hardcore, you can do that, but everything in this aircraft can turn off always forget to turn off the APU. Turn off our APU. But you can make it as realistic or as simple as possible, but do not let yourself feel like you have to make it ultra realistic and suck up all the precious time you have for your own personal life. Just make it work for you and just do it. Like, I go through moments, days where I want to pretend I'm a real world pilot. It's very few and far between where I do all of the tests and whatnot. Because most times, man, I just want to get flying and just start and just feel like I've achieved something. And if I want to do if I want a challenge, that's when I get out the likes of like the old school aircraft, like the BAE or the Fokker Friendship, and do the old school radio flying, radio navigation flying. But yeah. And yeah, that's what you guys need to decide. But these videos I do are just exactly what they are. They're just for just showing you guys how easy it is to get these aircraft, which are complex aircraft, and break it down and make it actually really, and make it really simple. And through the fact this is just a game and not real life, you can make it simulated to do the real thing, but you can just take shortcuts because there's nothing at stake, and you can make make your time on this game go really quickly, but still feel like you've achieved something. And yeah, if that all makes sense, my rambling on. Then we just oversteer it, make sure we get down to under 10 knots, then we just hook it around. Try not to hook it around too much because it just makes the nose wheel skid. And I think that's almost thereabouts. Using the tips and tricks that real world pilots have posted on the likes of YouTube and whatnot. Alright, we'll just put that throttle up again, get some more juice in the tank, and not juice in the tank, give it a bit more power and get that speed back up again. But yeah, there's probably many of you folks who go on Flight Radar and want to simulate doing real world procedures, like real world in regards to flying, like putting on autopilot and just following those really cool SIDs and stars that are all around the world. And that's the extent I like to do. I like to do the real world SIDs and stars, and now with FS HUD, that's got some pretty good guidance, free ATC with vectoring and all the rest of it. It's giving me that level of realism I want, and it's that balance between realism and making it work in my busy day and not having to feel like I have to, do those real world procedures. Like, what I'm talking about is I do know pilots on Flight Simulator, they do different things with they set up like a secondary flight plan and do all the system tests and all the rest of it. But yeah, this is me just cutting it down, stripping it all back, and just getting what I want out of my busy day, if that all makes sense. Right, we are now coming up to our departure runway, so we will get it all set up for our departure. Right, we don't need our terrain. Oh, we'll leave our terrain radar on just for the sake of it. We'll set this to that, which I call TARA, whatever it is, but I like to call it my plane radar mode. Right, we don't need our map anymore, but we'll go to ready for takeoff. And we'll just get it lined up because I don't think there's anything coming. Famous last words, but luckily it's a game. Right, I think everything's set. Landing lights are on. So that's one thing I do forget from time to time. The strobe lights are on. Everything looks relatively normal and like what's been mentioned with these aircraft, unless you're asked to stop, you don't need to come to a complete stop like some aircraft. You just spool up the engines, push this little magic button here, and that sets your takeoff thrusts, and away we go off to Canberra, and then eventually on to Wellington, New Zealand, and we'll fly what used to be a real world wide body flight into Wellington, which is quite a unique thing to do, because Wellington is a very narrow airport, and it's predominantly narrow bodied aircraft. It's effectively well, it is a regional airport in its purest. Right, we'll start up. Pull back. Get a nice view out of the window and outside and watch the landing gear come up. And I think I'm just going to go into autopilot now and get some nice views out of the cockpit outside on this nice morning flight, which in real life would have been a midnight flight effectively. As we see all of the busy ships all around Singapore, which is another thing Singapore is famous for. It's basically the heart, the center of the world shipping. Alright, we'll just flick the speed up now. And we'll just set our altitude. We'll just pretend we got cleared right up, so I think there are a few altitude restrictions in real life all the way up to here, so we'll just pretend we got clearance for climb straight up to our cruising altitude, which is one thing FS HUD doesn't seem to have the ability, which I hope it gets implemented, as ATC sort of not following the rails and yeah, just giving you clearance when you can, but there's no speed restrictions, is there? Only 230. Right, we'll wind our speed up to 240, and we'll just go into LNAV mode. And we'll turn on our weather radar now. We don't need our terrain radar. Enjoy some of this beautiful sunrise out of Singapore. It just shows you how tight, like that's Singapore. We're literally left Singapore, And we're now effectively over Indonesia. Indonesian territory islands. Alright, it's going to follow that restriction, but we're just going to override it by pushing this center button here a couple of times. And then it should spool up. We don't need that anymore. We've done that checklist and we can now clear that. I'm not too sure what pilots have in real life, but I like to set it on that. Just not that I ever spend much time in the aircraft anyway when I do these long flights. Right, that's all set. I'll just give this one last rough general set to roughly where we're going. Not that we will be in the cockpit soon as I leave the aircraft. Right, what I'm going to do is there's a discontinuity here, so I'm just going to clear that, but it'll be interesting to see if ATC picked that up or not. But we'll just get it set anyway. And I think the landing lights can basically come off now. We'll turn off the landing lights and the taxi lights. Runway exit lights. And we'll turn on our anti-ice to auto. We can just turn off our passenger signs. Or let them get their breakfast, or if this was a real world flight, that would have been a very light midnight snack, dinner / midnight snack. And we're pretty much just, well, I'm just going to carry on until that would have been my last waypoint, and just see if FS had picked that up. I don't think they did. It'll be interesting to see that, but from my end, everything is all pretty much set for our climb / cruise. So I'm going to leave you guys here, and you guys can enjoy the rest of the flight until I come back. So yeah, sit back and enjoy as you'll see this go into warp speed mode, and we will see you guys shortly. Alright folks, we're not far from our top of descent. As you probably saw, I was just setting my arrival, and I've been given my arrivals, so I've set that up in my FMC and set my minimums, and we'll set the altitude that air traffic control has given us, and we will be commencing our descent very shortly as we fly over a very crystal clear spring day here in Canberra. So I've set my minimums, everything looks pretty good up there for now, and there was one thing I was going to do, and that's going to see what, oh yeah, so I've got gate 6 or 5, so hopefully that's a heavy gate. I've been looking at online and just trying to suss out which gate is. It looks like your gate 6 is like the heavy gate, so I might. Is it either a 6? Yeah, it is a 6, so. Oh no, it's gate 9, so I'm going to change that to gate 9. And I'll apply, just keep with the same arrival, but we'll just change our gate. And as you can see, we've started our descent into Canberra. Alright, we'll do our landing configuration as well. Now we'll just go for flaps 30 landing, which is the max. Import the weight. We'll use all of our reverses are operational. Brakes, auto brake 3, is that what we want? Yeah, we'll go with auto brakes 3. And we'll go with that. That's going to give us this, hopefully the second to last exit on the runway. We might actually go flaps auto brake 4 actually. Oh, I better change this before it. Flight level 10,000, so update that, and we'll go flaps 4. Let's see what that gives us. Yeah, I mean auto brake 4, so we'll go with auto brake 4, so we'll get that set in like so, and we'll put in our landing speeds into here like so, so it's all ready. What else do I need to do? There was something else I was going to do. What was it? Oh yeah, it's going to go, that's right. Go through the checklist and start checklisting, ticking off this checklist. And that will be our next item that we'll check off. And our actual final approach altitude is going to be it's going to be 5,400 feet, and that's the star that we're doing. We don't need that anymore. Zoom in on our... we might get our terrain radar up. We don't need our weather radar anymore. It looks like it's going to be a very fine day here as we fly over the capital city of Australia. And the stunning Singapore Airlines 777-200ER livery. It is a very iconic livery, Singapore Airlines livery, and it's a very good example of least is more, in the sense of you don't need to continually update your corporate livery every other decade and just keeping with the one livery. You can create a nice timeless livery, and that's what I like of Singapore Airlines. They might have taken away one or two cheat lines within the major cheat line, but apart from that, they have stuck with the gold and the navy blue livery, and that's something that the likes of Air New Zealand and Korean Airlines should have probably followed through with. The new Korean Airlines livery just does not look that great. Same with the Lufthansa. I find they're sort of minimizing it too much, taking away colors that would have been quite iconic. Alright, I'm just going to set my final approach altitude, which is going to be 5.4. And we just go out here and enjoy our view flying over Canberra. I haven't been to Canberra, but I get the feeling from what I've seen on various travel vlogs, it's a very much quite heavy with the I guess it's your classic like capital city. It's got lots of statues and whatnot. So we come in now for our base turn onto finals. Right, we've got given our QNH now, so we can now set that to 15. We can now tick that off the list. And let's hope that this little stutter goes away. Right, we'll set our auto brake. We actually haven't need to use our auto brake, but what we will do is we will pull back our speed. As you can see, folks, once you get the basics, which is very basic on how to set your FNC, and as you can see, it's very straightforward. I've said this many times. It's very, very straightforward. You can enjoy doing these approaches, these highly automated approaches. Right, I'm probably just going to arm my approach so I don't forget. So I'm just going to do that now because we're basically on profile. And I'm going to start pulling back my speed. Actually, I'm just going to take it right back to my reference speed, which is 135. How far are we? We're 12 nautical miles, so we've still got a little bit of room to... Actually, I might just use my spoilers just to get the speed down. Alright, first stage of flaps can come down. I might just go to flaps 2, even though I'm not quite at the indication. I'll get my gear down. That gives us lots and lots of drag. Just like the 777-300, there is a bit of you definitely need to keep on top of your speed management. And we're just going to go flaps full. Beautiful sight coming into land here at Canberra and runway 35. Full flaps. Everything's all out. We can now go to the next checklist. Oh, we should probably enter in our go around altitude just in case we need that. And there'll be a lot of folks here that'll be stressing out right now. Don't worry, that will disappear very quickly once you... Oh, what was our go around altitude? It was 5.1, so we can just set that to 5.1. Yeah, if you're brand new to this aircraft and you see me doing all of these things last minute, I can imagine you'll be like myself, getting really stressed out and going, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? But yeah, it's very, very... Once you fly this and get used to it, you really do feel like you're got all the time in the world. But when you first start out, you feel like you're getting behind everything and everything happens really fast. But nah, it's really, really good. Very quite a significant displace threshold here at Canberra, but I can imagine that's the terrain here and
minimums.
Alright, we can retard. Oh, floating just a little bit for my liking. Oh, my joystick is probably entering its near the end of its life. But yeah, we floated a bit down the runway there, but we managed to get our speed back for this exit here that we're going to take. Alright, our flaps can now come up and we can hook her around and head on to our gate that hopefully is the right gate for this aircraft. Hopefully it's free as well. We'll better turn off our strobe and I'll turn on our taxi light. And here we are, we've arrived into the lovely capital city airport that is Canberra Airport. Alright, what do we need to... Oh, we better turn on the APU. We'll come up here and flick that on. We don't need our anti-ice anymore, so we can turn those all off. Oh, we should have had the seatbelt sign on. Oops. Oh well. Things just happen, don't they? We'll get our ground crew to disarm all of the doors in preparation for deboarding. I'll just clear this warning message. Oh, and we'll turn this transponder to the exponer thing as we see a Jetstar Airbus A320 coming into land here. And that's the wedge-tail 737 AWACS plane over there. And what's going to happen here? Am I going to give way to him or is he going to give way to me? It looks like he's just going to cut through just like that. As you see, it's a slight update from the last time I flew out of Canberra. I went out, now that I'm living in Australia, I thought I should get the capital city airport in all of its glory, so... Oh, I forgot to turn off my landing lights. So I've gone out and purchased that, so I don't think I actually turned my landing lights on when I was... Oops, that's what happens when you rush things too much. But yeah, I went and splashed out and got myself the Canberra airport scenery update, and it looks really good, really happy with that. I'll just turn off my flight directors just to reset them. I don't think they hardly ever use, I think it's just for Air Force and training aircraft, little prop aircraft that use this runway with when weather is permitted. Weather permitting. Right, this is going to be our gate here. Let's hope that it is the gate that the heavies did use in real life. We can now turn off our taxi light. It looks like a really nice modelled airport as well. I'm really happy with that. Alright, better pull back on the speed and probably are in the smaller this gate probably isn't for these aircraft, but that's the only option I had, so we will maybe that looks just like I'd fit in real life, and I'm within that yellow line, so I think we are good there, folks. We will now go ahead and shut down our aircraft, turn off our seatbelt signs, we'll turn off these hydraulics, fuel pumps can now come off, that can come off, beacon can come off, we can call up our jetway, turn off our emergency exit light. What else do we need to do? And just for all intents purposes, we'll just set our chocks, get our ground power unit set. And we'll call up we'll plug up the ground power. What else do I need to do? That looks about right, I think. Yeah, everything's all as it should be. I'll just call up all of these just to give it a bit of a lively appearance. And we will end the flight there, but we'll be back very soon, folks. We'll carry on this is still quite a cool airport to fly into for a wide body aircraft, but we'll be flying to Wellington in the wide body aircraft, so that'll be a bit of a blast from the past. And yeah, Wellington is a smaller runway, smaller airport, but it's definitely very capable of taking these large aircraft. So we'll leave you there, folks, and next time you'll see us flying this girl into Wellington. Right, you guys have a good day, and we'll see you again next time. Laters.